Protect your privacy online with the best VPN for gaming, ExpressVPN, and visit expressvpn.com/GhillieMaster, linked in the description, to find out how you can get 3 months free. The Savage was one of the very first DLC attack helicopters that were added to GTA Online, released in the original Heists update over 6 years ago. And along the way, this vehicle has undergone more changes than any other vehicle, I would say, in terms of its stats. Starting out, it had no armor with the normal hitbox. It was then given a tad bit of armor capable of tanking one rocket before blowing up on the second. Its lock-on hitbox was also bugged for a while, which made it a very viable helicopter because it could easily dodge missiles, which covered its downsides. That was fixed though, and today we're left with a helicopter that just doesn't have much purpose anymore, aside from maybe spawn trapping people with the explosive cannon. So to answer the question, where did the Savage go wrong? I wouldn't necessarily say it went wrong anywhere, because at the time of its release in 2015, the only way you could really take it out was with an RPG, another helicopter, or a jet. We didn't have ruiner tracking rockets, and not even the homing launcher was available to players. As time went on though, it just became obsolete. Its slight armor buff wasn't enough to keep it in check with the overload of homing rocket spam vehicles that were added into the game. And the only reason it was being used often up until it was patched was because of the bugged lock-on hitbox. The Savage is just a sitting duck to really any gunfire due to its very slow and unresponsive handling, without any armor to back up its slow and supposedly tanky nature. So what we're going to do to fix it is, we're first going to give it more armor so it's not as much of an easy target because of the way it handles. The Savage will now be the tankiest helicopter in the game after these changes. I want to keep its handling mostly the same so it retains the same identity, but I'm going to give it slight improvements in a couple of areas to make it just a tad more responsive. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to overhaul its weapons so it's not unpleasant to deal with. The explosive cannons on any vehicle in the live game are just not fun and in many ways completely broken and OP. And with the Savage's new armor, there would be nothing you could do on the ground against it. The weapons will receive some pretty massive changes. Starting off with the armor changes, it actually already has the flag for capped explosion damage, which is what allows it to tank one rocket. We took it a step further than that though and changed the weapon damage and engine damage modifiers from 0.5 and 1.5 to 0.04 for both of them. And this significantly increases the amount of rockets it could tank from 2 on the live game to 6 RPGs. I didn't want to make it too tanky to the point where it would just be annoying. I feel like 6 was kind of the perfect amount considering other helicopters can take usually like 3 before coming unusable. For some handling improvements, I decreased the mass of the Savage from 14,000 to 8,500, which is kind of a steep drop if you think about it, but it's still one of the heaviest helicopters in the game, if not still the heaviest helicopter. And on top of that, we also increased its thrust from 0.468 to 0.5, which helps it just a little bit with acceleration. And the lowered mass combined with the slightly increased thrust value makes it a bit more responsive in the air because it's not going to have as much inertia as it did. With that being said though, it still feels like the Savage. You're not going to be zipping around in this thing like it's the Havoc. Now for the weapon changes, I am completely against the explosive cannons still being a thing. I think they were designed with single player in mind and not multiplayer, hence why we haven't seen a vehicle with those same weapons ever since the Heist update. So we completely gutted the explosive cannons on the Savage, no more meme cannons. Instead, I gave it a very strong machine gun. The damage I upped from 30 to 150, which is a 5 times increase in power. Its time between shots went from 0.04 to 0.015, aka 4,000 RPM. And for some fun changes, I changed the force values of the gun to give it a feeling of really raw power. The force values went from 100 on PEDs and 2,000 on vehicles to 1,000 on PEDs and 5,000 on vehicles. And what this essentially does is give it some extra pushing power when you shoot either a PED or a vehicle. So now when you shoot a PED with the gun, they kind of go flying back from the sheer force of the weapon. But enough explaining, why don't I just show you what I mean. The last thing that I changed with the main gun was the range. I doubled it from 120 to 240. Now, is the gun weaker than the explosive cannon? Yes. Obviously, the explosive cannon has the best DPS out of any other weapon in the game by a long shot, so there wasn't really a situation where this cannon would be more powerful than the explosive cannons, because those are like literally at the top of the game. It's going to take a lot more aim to shoot people on foot now because you can't just abuse the giant blast radius anymore, you actually have to hit them directly. At the same time though, I would argue that this gun is better than the explosive cannon in certain ways. Just because the gun isn't explosive, it doesn't mean that it can't be strong. For example, this is what the Savage gun does against a laser. The very first burst of bullets completely tore off the back wing of the laser. Sure, it didn't blow up instantly, but there's no way that laser pilot's doing anything after that first burst. But how about something like the Pyro with full armor upgrades? Even with full armor, the Pyro was set on fire in a matter of a second of constant hits. Obviously, a moving target is going to be much harder to hit, but the point still stands. The gun is very powerful against aircraft, and with the increased range, you have even more viability in the air now. Now moving on to the missiles, I could have probably just left the missiles how they were if I'm telling the truth, but let's be honest, these generic 1 missile per second-ish rockets that every single aircraft has are just boring. You know what's not boring? That's right, homing Barrage. On top of the revamped machine gun, I gave the Savage the brand new homing Barrage. And essentially how I did this was I first put the Hunter homing missiles on the Savage, and then I added the homing toggle flag to them so you can switch between having lock on and having no lock on because, as we all know, the Hunter homing missiles you can't actually toggle them normally. After that, I equipped the Hunter Barrage firing pattern alias on the homing missiles to allow them to fire like Barrage missiles, and after copying some values from the Barrage missiles to the homing missiles, voila, you get the homing Barrage. This gives another really unique layer to the Savage's offense, and it's a lot of fun actually. It wouldn't really be that OP either. In fact, I hope one day we do get a vehicle with a homing Barrage missile in GT Online. And you know what, now that I think about it, I should have put the homing Barrage missiles on the Rebalance V11 Strike Force. I think that would have fit it very well. Anyways, that's going to be all for this vehicle rebalance. Let me know what you guys think about the new Savage in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like, as well as subscribe to my channel for more guide and PvP related content. Make sure to comment what vehicle I should do next as well. Huge thank you to all my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.